Greetings fellow Jedis and Padawans. Welcome to the first day of the 30 Artists Global Collaboration hosted by the lovely Its Art By Donna. I'm so excited to kick off this journey with all of you. And what better way to start than with a little Star Wars magic, right? Over the next 3 days, my amazing fellow artists from all around the world will be sharing their unique creations based on either Star Wars or Star Trek. I'll be diving into Star Wars today, creating a stunning canvas painting featuring an epic scene with the X-Wing starfighters flying away from the exploding Death Star. A big shout out to all my Patreon and channel members and all my subscribers and viewers. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate it. So I've got these beautiful pours that I've done previously. They're cloud pours and they are stunning. So this is the first one. And for this particular collaboration, the Star Wars collaboration, I'm going to be using one of these and embellishing on it. So you'll have to wait and see what I embellish on it. Let's get cracking with choosing. I think my favourite one out of the two is this one. So we'll move this out of the way and leave that for next time. I'm going to be drawing on this beautiful acrylic pour. Look at all those striations. And that kind of, this bit looks like outer space and a wormhole. So I'm going to be embellishing on this gorgeous acrylic pour painting with fluid art. So yes, let's use some acrylic paint pens and some ink pens and maybe some pencil even to get something embellished on this that's representational of Star Wars. Let's get cracking. So my first step was to decide the angle, shape and size of my X-Wing starfighters and the direction they're going to be going in relation to my background pour. So you can see that I've drawn out the shape and size onto some tracing paper, and the reason I've done that is so I can then see where I need to transfer that to, because I can see through the tracing paper and see my pour and get it in the right position that I want it. I'm just adding some little blue tack there just to keep that image in place, and I'm going to use the transfer method of some graphite paper in black, and because the center of this pour, the cloud, is actually rather white with some black lines around it, I know it'll show through, and I'm using a 3H pencil, which is a hard pencil, just to trace over the outline of my X-Wing starfighter. Now I've decided to add two because I think given the size of this painting I could fit two in, one larger size X-Wing and one smaller one as well, sort of slightly receding in the background. So you've seen my beautiful dried acrylic pour painting, which is my background. It uses the cloud pour technique in fluid art, and you can see the video for it on my channel where I actually created this background. The edges of the clouds actually have some gorgeous subtle glowing colours, and the darker corners of the canvas there have these amazing striations with multiple colours that really give the piece some depth. I'll be using my Grabie acrylic paint pens, they're brush pens, and some black ink pens as well as some white gel pens to add the finer details, including the X-Wings, the stars, and of course the explosive backdrop of the Death Star. You won't be able to see the Death Star, it's just a hint of the Death Star with the explosion coming out from behind the X-Wings, and that's the kind of look I'm going for. Now you can see on my canvas the graphite paper's left some very faint lines, which is perfect now. So I'm going to grab my Grabie markers, and you can get a discount, 15% discount on these using my discount code Taslima 15, or you can use the link down in the description box below. These are amazing markers. I really like them. I've used them in lots of my paintings, as you'll have noticed on my channel, and I really rate them. They're brilliant. As with most of my paintings, I'm putting down a base colour of white just to give the other colours something to sit upon, and it's helping cover up some of those beautiful black lines of the pour. So it does look a lot like a wormhole, doesn't it, this painting? And I love that about it. I think this makes it the perfect painting to embellish on and put these X-Wings onto. Now, while I get started on the X-Wings, let's talk a little bit about the scene I'm depicting. If you remember from Star Wars Episode 5, A New Hope, The X-Wing starfighters play a pivotal role in the Rebel Alliance's desperate attack on the Death Star. The iconic scene where Luke Skywalker fires the shot that ultimately destroys the Death Star is, let's face it, unforgettable, right? So did you know that the design of the X-Wing was inspired by the concept of a space fighter? The designers wanted it to have a classic fighter jet feel, so they modelled the X-Wing after military aircraft, but with a sleeker, futuristic twist. The wings open into an X shape when in attack mode, which is where the iconic X-Wing name comes from. The ship was designed by the legendary Joe Johnston, who also worked on Indiana Jones and Captain America. So what was the X-Wing's role in the films? Can any of you tell me? If you know, do comment down below. The X-Wing is, of course, one of the most recognisable symbols of the Rebel Alliance and represents the bravery of the underdog. We all love the underdog, don't we? In A New Hope, during the Battle of Yavin, it's the X-Wing pilot who leads the charge against the massive Death Star, hoping to land a precise shot into its small thermal exhaust port, which is its only weak point or its Achilles heel. The whole success of the battle and the fate of the rebellion hinges on that one moment. Luke Skywalker's X-Wing is, of course, central to that story, but did you know that Luke's iconic Red 5 X-Wing was actually painted in real model kits, and the entire fleet of Rebel X-Wings was made from a combination of practical effects and miniatures that were filmed in slow motion? I wonder if you knew that. If you did, let me know. It was a groundbreaking piece of film history, in fact. Now into the nitty-gritty about that explosive moment. The Death Star's destruction remains one of the most powerful and iconic scenes in cinematic history. The explosion of the Death Star was created with a combination of practical effects, miniatures, and later CGI in The Return of the Jedi. But in A New Hope, everything was actually filmed using models and creative lighting techniques. The explosion was so meticulously designed that it took hours of filming to get it just right. And here's another fun fact. The sound of the Death Star exploding was created by combining multiple real-world sounds, like the sound of a metal trash can being dropped and the low rumble of a subwoofer. It's so surreal to think about how they turned everyday noises into one of the most memorable sound effects ever. I chose to paint the X-Wing because it leaves a legacy in the Star Wars saga. The X-Wing doesn't just disappear after the first movie, it's present throughout the Star Wars saga, evolving with new models and new pilots. In The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, the X-Wing remains central to the Rebel cause, and even in The Force Awakens, we see the X-Wing make a return, now in the hands of the Resistance. The X-Wing's design has remained largely unchanged over decades because, well, why fix something that's already perfect? Now you can see I put the base paint down on my X-Wing fighters and I've added a little bit of orange to it, and I'm now going in with my ink pen. This is a 0.3 ink pen and it's just a generic ink pen. You can pick these up anyway, and I'm just doing an outline to give it a bit more gravitas and a bit more definition. Now this is the 5th annual crossover event for Star Wars, and obviously it combines Star Trek this year, but if you missed last year's, it was hosted by Its Art By Donna, and you can go back and watch that. I did contribute last year as well. I painted R2-D2 and I'll put a link down in the description box if you want to check that out. I had such fun. This year we've got so many different artists across 3 days. Please do check out the playlist down below and make sure you watch everybody, give them a comment and a like, and I'm sure you're going to have such a fun ride. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank It's Art By Donna, or Donna Cipriana. She's a wonderful person. She gives so much, and she put this massive collaboration together, which is an awful lot of work. So thank you, Donna, for inviting me. I'm really honoured to be here. Now you can see I'm adding quite a lot of shadows, and I'm using my ink pen to do that. I could also use the acrylic paint markers if I wanted, but I chose to use my ink pen simply because I had a bit more control with how narrow the nib was on this. And you know, I think I picked the right pour for this, because those beautiful colours, you see the orange and yellows and the kind of lighter colours in the clouds around the edges of the pour, they reflect the actual X-Wing as well, if you notice the colours in X-Wing, and I think it looks fantastic already.
Mummy, can I sit on the lap?
Yes, come on then. Get up. Sit on my lap. What do you think of my spaceship?
Oh, pretty.
Pretty? Pretty? This is good.
Pretty.
What do you like about it?
A sky.
The sky.
And a pen.
Oh, okay. Right, what was I supposed to do then? Colour in this bit here, isn't it? Very awkward doing it with you in my lap, love.
Just a little bit.
I don't mind. Just a little bit?
Yes, just a little bit on that.
Shall I do some light coming out of the behind it?
Yeah.
Right, okay, we'll do that. Then I'll paint it on later, okay? Okay, sweetheart. That was a little behind the scenes of my daughter Sarah coming to sit in my lap while I do my painting, which happens quite often, but I tend to edit them out. But I thought I'd keep this one in for you. She's just adorable, honestly. Alright, so you can see I'm almost getting there with the first X-Wing, but I'd love for you to let me know what your favourite Star Wars ship is in the comments below. Is it the X-Wing, the Millennium Falcon, or maybe something a little more obscure, like the TIE Fighter? Let me know, because you know I love hearing from you guys. Did I mention I'm so thrilled to be kicking off this incredible journey with you all, and we have such a vibrant community of artists coming up. I just can't wait to see all the amazing creations coming out of this collab. I do think the Grabie acrylic brush markers and ink pens capture the energy of this scene really well, but I will add an explosion to signify the demise of the Death Star behind them. You can see I'm doing this by applying white acrylic pen as if there's light from an explosion behind them, coming right from the centre of that pour outwards. There's a lot of energy and motion and significance in this scene, and I'm trying to capture it as best as I can. Now, the X-Wing was meant to be a practical, believable spacecraft that could easily be piloted by someone like Luke Skywalker, and they didn't want to make it look too much like a giant spaceship. It needed to feel like something you could almost step into and fly. The X-Wing also had deep connection to the entire Star Wars saga. It represents the Rebel Alliance's fight for freedom against the oppressive Empire. Each X-Wing pilot, from Luke Skywalker to Poe Dameron in The Force Awakens, becomes a symbol of resistance and courage. And let's not forget the famous call signs. Luke was Red 5, and later we see Red Leader and Gold Leader in A New Hope. These pilots' bravery is what keeps the spirit of the Rebel Alliance alive throughout the films. Now let's talk a little bit about the Death Star explosion. It's such a powerful moment, not just in A New Hope, but in the entire Star Wars universe. The Death Star, as we know, is the Empire's ultimate weapon, capable of destroying entire planets. It's a symbol of their oppressive rule, and its destruction is a pivotal moment in the battle between good and evil. As mentioned previously, when they filmed the Death Star's explosion, it was done entirely with miniatures. There were no CGI effects back then, so the special effects team used model explosions, practical lighting and optical effects to create that scene. The miniatures were filmed in slow motion, and the team used everything from smoke and fire to real-world explosion sounds, and of course the iconic pew-pew laser blasts. Okay, now that we've covered some cool Star Wars facts, let's talk a little bit more about the creative process behind this painting. I chose a fluid art painting to create the background with this cloud pour, and it's reminiscent of nebulae in outer space and almost representative of a wormhole. The colours are going to help set the stage for the Death Star explosion and the X-Wing's flight path out of there. I love the way fluid art can mimic the feel of a starry galaxy with its soft edges and vibrant swirls. The colours I used for this pour have a soft glowing effect, almost like the edges of a nebula or the stars themselves. This will create a stunning contrast when we add the sharp, dynamic details of the X-Wings soaring away from the explosion. Going back to the Death Star, it's more than just a weapon. It's a symbol of the Empire's might and the disregard for life. Its spherical shape, with a massive weapon at its core, almost gives it a feeling of inevitability. The Death Star feels like a mechanical, unstoppable force, and when it does explode, it's not just the end of the weapon, it's the end of the way of life for the Empire. For this reason, I chose not to paint it into this scene and instead just symbolise the explosion of its destruction instead, as I feel that was much more poignant. Did you know that the Death Star was actually two different models in the original A New Hope? The first version was created for testing purposes and was a simple painted ball. The final version was much more intricate, with detailed surface markings and a giant trench where the rebel pilots had to make their attack. The designers also used physical effects like smoke and coloured lights to make it feel alive when it exploded. And now I'm at the final stage. I'm adding some stars into the space area around the edges of this pour, and I'm using blue and white acrylic markers and smudging them with my fingers, so you can see that. I really love those. And we're not very far away from finishing off this painting, so I'm super excited. As I finish up, I'll play some Galactic music for you, and I'll see you at the end for the final reveal and close-ups. So my friends, here we are, my X-Wing flight, flying away from the fiery explosion of the Death Star. It's been such an exciting project, and I hope you've enjoyed learning some behind the scenes facts about Star Wars and watching this painting come to life. This piece is inspired by one of the most epic moments in Star Wars, a true moment of triumph for the Rebel Alliance. It's amazing how these films have influenced not just the world of cinema, but also the world of art, and I'm so excited to be part of this global collaboration. Please make sure you check out all the incredible artists involved in this collaboration over the next 3 days. There are some truly amazing pieces coming your way. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single moment of this creative Star Wars and Star Trek adventure. You will find the playlist pinned in the comments below as well as in the description box. And if you've joined me in my premiere, you'll see the playlist pinned in the live chat box as well. And I just want to say a massive thank you for watching my video. Do leave me a comment. So this is day 1, and up after me will be the talented Johnny from Johnny Dark Art Creatorium. See you there. Thanks so much for joining me today. May the Force be with you always.